And the
podcast
begins with a song of rebellion.
How can this
podcast.
be my life?
CD Burners.
All right, Matt Blankenship.
So I guess I'll see.
That's the wrong album. Oh, God.
So I guess I'll see you. I'll see you around. What are these? Carly's things? What is this?
Carly's are down on the floor there.
No, there's something right here.
Oh, yeah, those are Carly's.
What do you got in there?
For her baby head.
Her stupid fucking baby head. Dude, what did we just say on okay, say the name of the artist.
All right, guys, welcome to CD Burners. Today, we're doing one of my favorite albums of all time. We're doing I'm Wide Awake It's Morning by Bright Eyes.
Brett Ass Eyes.
Morgan does this thing where he saves people in his phone, not by first and last name, but with a description of who they are so he won't forget them, so it'd be like, Lauren, Insomniac, Pasquale, friend, whatever, or Steven, blue hair, coffee shop. This is one of my favorite ones. Brett Ass Eyes.
Here's the thing, I don't know why.
Wasn't descriptive enough, I guess, because do you know who he is?
I do know who he is.
And he had ass eyes?
Yeah, just like he has ass eyes. And so when we were listening to this album, it's
I'm Wide Awake It's Morning by Brett Ass Eyes.
I'm Wide Awake It's Morgan by by Ass Eyes.
That's really funny.
Yeah, no, it's so funny because it's so stupid. That's the stupidest. It's so stupid, right?
This album came out.
Hold on.
Where are you going? You're gonna drop that.
Coming back.
This album came out in 2005. It is what many consider to be Bright Eyes' best album. Their magnum opus is also their most commercially successful album. It's a lot different than other Bright Eyes albums, but that's kind of a consistent thing with Bright Eyes is you just went over there to grab an empty can.
It's not empty. There's stuff in it. That's how much I like Ghost Energy drink.
Good to the last drop. They should use that as their slogan.
Yeah. What is that? And is that like
Folgers?
Folgers?
Yeah.
Does Folgers exist anymore?
Oh, yeah. You just don't buy it because you go to the Oaks.
I don't go to the Oaks.
Why?
It's a schlep in the morning, and
Did you make an enemy?
no, I didn't make an enemy. He is such a fucking dickhead.
Is he?
Dude, no, just driving with him in the morning.
Oh, yeah. You don't walk there. You drive there.
Yeah.
That's a long walk.
It's too long of a walk to do in the morning before work. It's just not.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to take him, but it's just dude, it's so much because whatever. It's a lot, but no, I don't go.
Bright Eyes. This is their 70s folk album. But yeah, this is a thing that Bright Eyes tries to do. That's what it's their 70s folk inspired album. They tried to do Neil Young, they tried to do Joni Mitchell, who else? Jackson Brown. He was really into that stuff at the time. Bob Dylan.
I guess.
What do you mean you guess? That's what it is. Most of the album was recorded by them playing in a circle, like a folk band with an upright bass and an acoustic guitar.
Oh no, it's not what I think. I don't, and maybe I just haven't when I hear 70s folk, maybe it's just that's not what comes to mind.
Well, this is it. This is their 70s folk inspired record.
I would never describe this as 70s folk. But I guess maybe
Get
that's
your
how
ass out of your eyes.
I guess that's how that people were describing it. It's not at all.
I don't think
would
that they would
say.
describe it, but that's definitely what they were inspired by and going for. So
did they describe it?
Yes, Connor and Mike described it that way.
As a 70s
They said
drum
it's 70s
circle.
inspired. Yes. They recorded it in 1 week in Lincoln, Nebraska, and it was freezing as hell. Connor just moved to New York. He was living in the East Village, and he's from Omaha, and this was kind of his coming of age, moved to the big city, realized there's life outside of the Midwest. There's people speaking different languages. There's so much happening. Like, imagine just leaving your home, Omaha, Nebraska, for the first time, moving to the heart of New York City, and just being like so overwhelmed and immersed in like the culture. And he loved it. And he lived in the Village, which is like where all of those people like Joni Mitchell and Bob Dylan and why am I blanking on that guy's name?
Bob Marley.
Nope, not a Bob at all. The guy who wrote Chelsea Hotel.
Paul from the Beatle.
Not Paul from the Beatle.
Cat Stevens.
Leonard Cohen.
Catherine Stevens.
Catherine Stevenson. Leonard Cohen. He lived there.
People fucking love Leonard Cohen.
Connor loves Leonard Cohen. He considers Leonard Cohen and Bob Dylan the greatest songwriters of all time.
I keep hearing people think, Leonard Cohen is the greatest songwriter of all time, and I'm just like,
what do you think?
I don't know. I've never really listened to him.
I think Leonard Cohen's a great songwriter. He wrote Hallelujah, and people
look.
that.
I think I'm sure he's awesome. It's just like I never really listened to it. I'm sure that it's the best. If everybody that I like is like, yeah, he's the best.
So Bright Eyes had an album before this called Lifted, which was like a cinematic masterpiece. They didn't use a drum kit. They had a drum line, and they had it was like a big, almost orchestral movie soundtrack sounding album. And then this album came out simultaneously with another album called Digital Ash in a Digital Urn. They were released on the same day, and that album is the opposite of this album. It is a electronic album. So he put them out at the same time. It worked really well for people. It actually worked really well for Bright Eyes. They sold more albums than they've ever sold because of they put out 2 records at the same time, so people were just buying both.
Bright Eyes so well. I feel like this is like I have a lot to say about this. But I feel like you are probably my thoughts on this album are all opinions, I think, for the most part. I don't know if I have any concrete information. I think I've got some concrete information.
Well,
but I think I have some good opinions.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear one.
I think this might be the best album of all time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the best one. I don't think there will probably ever be a better album.
What makes this the best album of all time?
Everything about it. I don't think that there's one. I think it was Time and Place. I'm not a lyrics guy, right? I like this album. I become a lyrics guy.
Well, you kind of have to be a lyrics guy on this album in particular because it's so sparse. It's like you got acoustic guitar, you got some upright bass, you got some pedal steel. But
objectively, I just think that this is probably the best album of all time. And I don't think that...
I think it's Connor's best writing for sure.
I just don't think that there will ever be a better album is the thing.
Wow.
I just think
that's a big statement.
Yeah, I think and kind of by a lot is the thing. It's pretty, it's couldn't be more perfect.
Well, let's talk about Time and Place. This came out in 2004, or they recorded it in February 2004. So this is also still people are kind of reeling a little bit from 9/11, but Connor in particular was a political guy. He got really involved.
Didn't used to be though, right?
He was in the 2000 election. And then, so that was simmering with him. He was still pissed. And then he went on this tour called Vote for Change Tour with a bunch of big names like Bruce Springsteen and John Fogerty and the Dixie Chicks and stuff. And
the Chicks.
He put his whole brightussy into trying to get Bush not reelected on his second term, trying to get John Kerry elected. And he didn't.
Why the long face?
Hey,
you know what I mean?
So he was really kind of heartbroken, and it was the first time he experienced putting, so much passion behind a political candidate and not having it pan out. So he had all this angst from that, anguish, and then he moves to New York, and it's just this perfect like snapshot of being that age where you're starting to realize so many things about the world, and like politics are not going to be like a bright and cheery thing. There's, a lot of crazy shit out there that you were not exposed to growing up, and he kind of distills it down into this perfect folk album.
And I also want to preface this that like Bright Eyes is not like one of my favorite bands. Like it's not.
It is your favorite. It is one of the best albums of all time.
It might not be. It's not my favorite album of all time. It's just the best album of all time. I'm looking at it from like a bird's eye view of just shit in general.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. It's okay. It's like the thing is like I'm good at looking at something from, even if it's like not my, and this is my thing. Like I want to very much have everybody know that like I there's a reason why I say that it is the best album of all time. It's not my favorite, but it is the best of all time. I do not, but like Bright Eyes is not one of my favorite bands. So I can really take a look at this and
objectively.
Yeah, if that is the right word. I don't know if that's the right word. Yeah. But it's like, I don't know. Like, what did people say? Like, Casablanca is like the best movie of all time.
Sure.
It's like,
it's a classic.
I'm like, maybe.
Yeah.
But like, I don't think but sure. If that's like what everybody says and that's like this gold standard for like what is a movie, then cool. I'm on board with that. Even though it might not be my thing. Like if somebody was like, hey, pick the best perfect movie of all time, I'd probably say like Pulp Fiction is a perfect movie. Like You're not going to get any better than that. And for like albums, I just don't think you're going to get any better than this album. It's also, I'm not a pussy, and I like can't listen to these songs without tearing up. Like they're so like it does wild shit to like, this is a wildly incredible album. It's like, it's strange because I listen to it. I've listened to it a lot. It's one of the albums I do listen to a lot. And while it is a political album, I don't know. I guess it's interesting because there are bands that are political and you're like, that's what they are. And then they don't really say much else. They don't really talk about like the human emotion. They're just like, fuck the government. And this gave a perspective of what it's like to be a person, but also feel that way, I think. And it's like not so in your face where you're like, I could apply these lyrics to things that aren't just the government.
Yeah, I think it's less about like it being like a political song and more about like a personal introspective look at how politics and the world like affect you. These are not protest songs per se.
And it's, and then in the same breath, it's like you've got albums on there that give such a clear view. Like I've never heard a song that describes somebody being like an addict or like being addicted to shit or like what that's like. I've just never, I think he is like the best lyricist in a way that is like completely not annoying. It's like not annoying. Usually I'm like, that's so fucking like, that's annoying. He's just so, it's like he mastered lyrics. Like this is it's like a master class in like songwriting and storytelling and lyricism. It's just like a master class.
There are several songs on this album about like addiction. Lua and Poison Oak. Two of the, I think, songs that Connor that Bright Eyes still plays in their set like continuously, and they kind of like vary on it. Is that what you were talking about?
No, I heard that he like took a break from Lua.
Oh, really?
And that when he went on tour with Phoebe Bridgers, she was like, please play this song. And he was like, I don't want to play that song anymore. And she's like, please play this song. And then she like got him to play it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know.
I think a lot of this stuff is like super personal. Like I listened to this great podcast, which you guys should go check out. It's called Life of the Record. And it's like an audio documentary with Connor Oberst and Mike Mogus. And they go through like track by track and talk about the whole making of the album. Like nothing we talk about on this episode is literally going to touch that podcast.
Why?
Like, because that's direct from the source from Connor and Mike. And it's like an hour and a half, the two of them, not even a host. Like it's just the two of them talking about everything in depth that went into making this record.
Okay. So if you had to take one thing out of that so we can so everybody can be like,
I'm going to probably continuously reference it, but the thing that I was trying to get at was he was talking about Poison Oak in particular and how it was so personal and like it was about his family, and I think it was about his cousin who had committed suicide. It was one of the only times that he felt like nervous to play songs for people that he actually knew in real life because it was almost like exposing his family in a way.
Yeah, which is wild because it's like when you write songs, they're personal, but you're like, oh wait, this one's too good. Like that's the fucking thing. It's just like, it's too good. It's like he did the thing that I think everybody is trying to express. He just did it, and there's not like a wrong step. Like
Absolutely.
I like really do feel that way. It's also interesting because like I think his voice is probably like a little bit of a barrier to entry for some people. And then, first day of my life can't, which by the way, I bet that like how many people got married to that song?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's just like
it's number 2.
What's number 1?
I forget.
Like, I just can't, it's like people heard that song and they were just like, and that's another thing. That's
it's probably like Can't Help Falling in Love with You.
Yeah,
Jason
that's
Mraz.
what it
And
is.
then from First Day of My Life.
Yeah. So it's just funny because like you hear that song and like you said, like Hallelujah. Like, yeah, I thought that song was written like by like, I don't know, before Christ,
Well, there was a guy who covered it that wasn't Leonard Cohen.
Whatever.
Like that famous.
Like I thought that song was like probably like biblical
Jeff
times.
Buckley.
Whatever. So it's like, I thought that song was probably written by like a bunch of monks or some shit like that. And it just is the thing that, like Happy Birthday. And
well,
like,
I'm talking about the one where it's like played a secret chord, and David came to please the Lord. Hallelujah. Yeah. The actual Hallelujah is like a biblical thing, but the song Hallelujah that was made famous by Jeff Buckley was written by Leonard Cohen.
Okay. So I like that, whoever did it, it reminds me of the entire thing was written like before songs existed. And it's just like when First Day of My Life came out, it was just like, oh, that's just like the happy birthday of weddings.
Did you watch the music video for First Day of My Life?
No.
It's really cute. All they did was have a bunch of people come sit on the couch, wear headphones, and listen to that song for the first time. And then they just had couples.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they had couples come sit on a couch and they just filmed them listening to that song for the first time. And it's really cute.
Yeah, that's awesome. What a cool idea.
It's that song is like such a perfect love song. And Connor talked about like how he most of the music that he puts out into the world is dark. And he was like, I feel like it was me trying to offset some of the darkness that Bright Eyes puts out into the world. And he played First Day of My Life. I think he played it at a show in Omaha. And Tim Kasher, who's one of his friends who's in the band Cursive, that was a person that Connor like always like looked up to. And, they kind of came up together on the Saddle Creek Records scene. He said Tim Kasher, he went up to him after the show and was like, what did you think of that song? And Tim was like, it's the best song you've ever written. Connor was like really unsure about it. He was like, no, it's absolutely the best song you've ever written.
Yeah, it's just all of the songs are the best songs that have ever been written. It's crazy. It's like a crazy thing.
Going back to what you said about his voice. So there's actually a song on this album where he references his voice because I guess, he doesn't have a perfect singing voice. People say that he sounds like a dying goat sometimes. Pretty much like every music review at the time is like, wow, this is such an incredible album. What a great songwriter, but goddamn, this guy's voice is terrible. So there's a line in Landlocked Blues where he says, I could have been a famous singer if I had someone else's voice, but failures always sounded better. Let's fuck it up, boys. Make some noise. And then they go into this huge sort of breakdown where everybody's just like making a ton of noise. And Nate Walcott's back there on the trumpet. Like, dude, it's such a great moment on this album.
There's no bad moments on the album. I think it's just so funny that people probably found that, like, they're like, oh, sweet, first day of my life. Like, they heard that song. And then they're like, I'm going to get this Bright Eyes album. I'm going to listen to that. It's going to be really sweet. It's going to be really sweet. And I just like imagine somebody being like all like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, like popping in this fucking album. And then by the end, they look like shit. And they're like
they're like wasted,
disheveled. Yeah. And like, they get to the end of I think Road to Joy is the last song. Maybe they just like, get to the end. They just like blow their brains out. It's just like such a fucking funny thing because that was the song that got them so big, and it's just not that.
Well, there was actually like a weird moment with the music industry that Bright Eyes kind of exploited. And this is how they kind of topped the charts. So at the time, in 2004, I think they were like kind of phasing out singles. Like, you used to just be able to go to the record store, you'd buy a single and maybe it had a B-side on it or something. But they put out singles for Lua and Take It Easy, Love Nothing. And there weren't a lot of people putting out singles at the time, but Bright Eyes put out a shitload of these singles. Saddle Creek manufactured a bunch of them because that was their strategy. And he had number 1 and number 2 spot on Billboard for singles. And then that was before these 2 albums came out. So like a lot of that momentum led people, like you said, to buy I'm Wide Awake It's Morning. Granted, the single was not First Day of My Life, but Lua is still like a pretty like
it's got a bazillion play. It's like it's like the second most
incredible song, but it's a very it is sort of like a sparse like love song, and it could also lead you in and just be like, wow, I really love this, and then you get in there and he's like, let's fuck it up, boys.
I think that it's not like a complicated musical album.
It's intentionally sparse.
Like everything has purpose though.
Yes.
Like every instrument has like in extreme purpose, which is like, I don't know, now when you're like doing shit, it's just like how much shit can we throw on something? And I feel like every single note and every single velocity of everything on this album has purpose.
Yeah. And Mike Mogus, he said that was really hard for him to come to terms with, especially like coming off of an album like Lifted, where he's, literally conducting like a drum line instead of drum kits and building this cinematic thing. For him, he was like, okay, did I do enough? Like he felt like, did I cop out because I didn't want to put extra guitars on this, or I didn't want to put something there? Like, is it okay that we just put acoustic guitar and pedal steel on Poison Oak? And it really speaks to the power of like, sometimes less is more, and making that strong but hard production decision. Like that is incredibly hard to do for any musician to not play. but sometimes it's way more effective.
Hey, this is Megan Nunamaker, aka the girl from Palm Springs.
Let's go.
If any of my students are hearing this, tell me and I'll give you extra credit. But I'm begging you guys, please do an episode about modern baseball.
Yes.
Okay.
I would love it, and I think a lot of other people would love it.
I would love
Also,
it.
Yeah, we would.
Morgan, do you still want me to yell at you in real life? Because we can arrange that.
Hey,
Okay,
yo.
bye.
What a good. If our students are listening, don't listen to that last part.
Yeah, I feel like a modern baseball episode would be awesome. I'm putting it on our list.
I think that's a good idea. Yeah, we were thinking about albums to do this past week, and we have a bunch of really good ones coming up. Ones that like we are excited about, because we started doing this for when we were young, and we were like, all right, we'll cover all those fucking bands. Some of them I hated, and I hated doing the research on it.
Well, we can't do albums that we know and love all the time.
I know,
but it's a bit more fun now because like it's so much easier to talk about shit that you're passionate about.
Well, I the suggestion that I had was like, let's do an album that I like know or love really well, and then let's do one that you love and know really well that we might not.
I don't love that many,
Then we'll take their suggestions.
At the last emo night, I did a set. I played From First to Last, Note to Self, and then I played The Killers' Mr. Brightside. But in between the songs, I was like, all right, that one was for the heads. This one is for the normies. And then I pressed play on Mr. Brightside.
I was there for that. You should have played Bangarang. I don't know where I heard this, but along the lines of, man, I'm going to get this so wrong. But I think it was David Byrne from the Talking Heads. He said something along the lines of the most butchered quote ever. But he said something like, if a singer's voice is if it's like good, it takes away from what you're not actually listening to what they're saying. Something like that. It's like, when you listen to like Mariah Carey and you're like, holy shit. Like,
yeah.
Oh my God, she hit a whatever,
look it up?
sharp or whatever. Yeah, look it up. But it's like
the better the singer's voice is, the harder it is to believe what they're saying. So that is incredibly applicable to Connor Oberst because you fucking believe this guy. Like he's singing with his heart. And I remember actually like the girl that I dated in college, Sophia Pizzullo, aka Sugar Jones. Incredible singer.
Juggy?
She was
no.
She was on The Voice.
Yes.
And I remember I was such a big Bright Eyes fan and I would show her Bright Eyes, but she's like one of those like Christina Aguilera, incredible. You know, she's on the fucking Voice.
Yeah.
And I remember showing her Bright Eyes and she was like, God damn, like Connor, he tries so hard, but you can really just hear like he is singing from his heart. And that's what I feel like is such a incredible thing about this man's voice and delivery and the art that he makes. It's like it's really, really from his heart. It's really personal, and that is undeniable, even though his voice is bad.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's so cool. It's just so cool. It's like we did two cool things in a row. Well, because you guys don't know this, but we record 2 in a day. You might know this, but and we did From First to Last, and it's just like you don't have to be the fucking like you just have to mean it. Like you just really have to like mean it, and I think both of those albums like really represent. Oh, if you like really mean it, it will shine through. And this was the first. I think this is like the first positive thing I'll ever say about Pitchfork is like they gave the #1 album of the year.
Really?
Yeah, it's like the first time that like they've never had to fucking walk anything back.
Yeah.
They're like, and the first time I've probably ever agreed with them.
Yeah,
So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think they, like when that mattered, I guess,
That is a big deal.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's like
in 2004.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Like people actually like listened to music reviews and they're like, oh, this is an 8. It's going to be an 8.
Have you listened to the other album that came out?
Digital Ash?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that album.
Yeah, it's really, really good. But I guess when this came out, they did 2 separate tours or like 2 different legs of the tour where they would do like I'm Wide Awake. And then the second tour, they did Digital Ash. And I guess he was saying like during the I'm Wide Awake tour, it was like the Beatles, like he would walk out on stage and it would be like cameras flashing and, you know, people were just like trying to rip off his clothes back as he was getting into the car and like all that kind of shit. And then with Digital Ash, like people were mad because they liked the I'm Wide Awake version of Bright Eyes. Like that was the entry point, you know, like for a lot of people, they found First Day of My Life or found like the folk record first. And then Digital Ash, they were like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, see, I think that it's just so cool to, he's like, all right, everything is different. I'm going to do whatever I want and then is great at all of it.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. He's like, they're not like.
Well, it's a Connor and Mike thing. Like Mike is the genius producer behind all of it. And they have a really great creative connection where Connor can have this vision of, okay, I'm going to do 70s folk and like, but it's
and
still,
it's not going to suck ass. It's not going to be like
Bright Eyes,
yeah.
you know, or I want to do a electronic album and it's still Bright Eyes. Like you can listen to all of it and be a fan of it. It's not ever like, oh, this is a different band. I don't like this one anymore. Like they're not who they used to be. Like the through line is Connor and his songwriting and his heart.
Yeah, that's why. Look, like I said, Bright Eyes is not like one of my favorite bands, but Connor's like one of my favorite songwriters and like people in general, just because of like what he does and how well he does it. He's like my favorite type of guy, just like a drunk guy that's great at stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's just like my favorite type of guy. And there's my favorite thing about this album, I think my favorite thing about this album is the levels in which they recorded Emily Lou Harris's voice.
Emmylou Lou Harris?
Emmylou Lou Harris. Yeah.
I mean, she's very prominent in the mix for sure.
It's like the same level.
Yeah. And it's so funny because she's like such a great singer and then she's trying to harmonize with Connor being like, you know?
Yeah. See, I didn't even like look at how they recorded this because I figured you would know all that stuff. I didn't know they like did it. Did they do it together?
The Emmylou Lou Harris recordings were done separately. They were done at a studio in Nashville. So the majority of the album was done in Nebraska, in Lincoln, Nebraska, in a week where they played in a circle. And then Connor reached out to Emmylou Lou just like on a whim. It was like, let's shoot for the moon. And she said yes. So they flew down to Nashville to do it. And they did it at like a very church-like studio, he said. And it was such a powerful moment and surreal moment for everybody involved because she's a legend. Like this, like if you want female vocals on like this folk country kind of thing that you're trying to do, Emmylou Lou Harris is the person. Like she's sang with like Graham Parsons. She sang with like all those people. I
gotta tell you, that is not my like. I do not know a lot about when you said 70s like folk. Like I feel like that might be the type of music I know least about.
So they were at this studio in Nashville. It was like a church and they were all super moved by it. Connor said that Maria Taylor was there. She's another artist that is on Saddle Creek and she's featured on this album a lot too with harmonies. But Maria Taylor and Connor and Mike are in the studio hearing Emmylou Lou sing, and it like moved Maria so much that she had to like walk out of the room and was crying in the hallways.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine.
Because you're just like in the presence of a country legend and she's singing on your album.
Yeah,
like,
and also like what she is singing and like what she's saying, and it's like, and the songs, it's like, that's.
And she didn't show up unprepared either. She like actually thought about the parts before she got there and, you know, sang them in the car on the way there or whatever. Or like she spent some time thinking about her parts. And to them, you know, as kids from Nebraska who are like trying to make some music together, it was such a surreal moment to be like, wow, we have a legend singing on one of our songs.
Yeah, I like love that. I don't know. It's interesting because like, again, what's the producer's name? Mike Mogis. Yeah. He like, I don't know.
I mean, he's not just the producer. He's the other half of Bright Eyes.
I know that's the thing. I don't know anything about it. I figured you would just do all of that. And I was like, here's what I love about this. And the intention, the choice to keep them like pretty much the same level. Not only does it like, what I think Connor's doing is being like, I respect you, you know, and not using her as just like a harmony.
Mm-hmm.
Like, or I mean, I think it also does that. It's like, not only does it do what it needs to do for the song, but I think on an even deeper thing, he was like, you should be the same level as me. Like, because you are this.
Yeah.
And I think that that's just like it's like a parent is the thing, but I don't think you think about that stuff if you don't know that stuff and like how he was doing this album and how he feels
you're
about
not
this
technically thinking about it, but it feels right artistically.
Yeah.
I love, I read one review that was like, every Bright Eyes album is daring you to turn it off from the beginning.
That's really funny.
Every album starts with like a really drawn out like intro track. And this has like one of the most like iconic ones where he's
it's so awesome.
He's telling a story. He's like, so there's this woman and she was on an airplane flying high above the largest ocean on planet Earth. And she just, he's like, I could probably do it.
You
like,
could
word
I
for
feel
word.
like you did do it.
Yeah.
Word for word at some point for something.
But that was inspired by a real thing that happened on the way to record this album. They took a really small plane from New York City to Lincoln, Nebraska, and like had a kind of a scary almost plane crash. Like it was like really turbulent and thought they were going to go down.
Oh, that was a real thing?
Yeah. And then they put it into this intro to the album.
Yeah, which is really strange because it's like who knows if it has anything to do with the album, but it fits perfectly.
It's a really funny juxtaposition because he's telling this really dark story about almost getting in a plane crash. And then the song is this beautiful, like upbeat, chugging guitar folk song where it's like, we need to, sing together and look at the world in a different way. But I think that is kind of like the through line through the whole album, But yeah, I guess like he just improvised that story a few different times. He did it like 3 different times. He kind of had like the loose idea and then, Mike would just be like, okay, go. And then you can hear, if you listen really closely, you can hear like the other band members like kind of laughing in the background.
Yeah, it sounds like like I said, everything about the album is perfect. It's all perfect. Everything about it. And if you don't think so, it's okay that you're wrong.
Let's talk for a second about some of the features in addition to Emmylou. Album has 2 drummers, Clark Bacall from The Faint and Jason Bosel from
cool.
Rilo Kiley.
Yeah, which, by the way, both really awesome.
And they would record the drums simultaneously sometimes. So that's why the percussion has like a layered sound to it.
Didn't know that. I didn't know that.
There's also that funny voice at the beginning of the album at the bottom of everything where it's like a man's voice. He's like, while my mother waters plants.
I don't know. I didn't know.
I would play it, but we're not allowed to play music anymore.
I'm like so entranced by what he's saying that like I don't think I've.
Well, there's a weird voice, and it's that of Jim James of My Morning Jacket. So those are the kind of cool liner notes. There's also a really kind of interesting story. I guess if you look at the album booklet, there's a fictional story written by an author named J.T. Leroy, who is a
fictional person.
Not a real person.
Is it not a real person?
Not a real person.
Oh, I just guessed.
Yeah, so it's actually an author named Laura Albert. So she invented a literary persona, not just for this, but for other things. She put out like books and like actually got a movie deal under the name J.T. Leroy. But J.T. Leroy wrote a special story for the album booklet. And this story is a kind of like nonsensical, bizarre, fictional story about a writer from the Midwest who's dropped, or a writer from the city who's dropped into the Midwest, but it's called The Republic of Saddle Creek. And Connor Oberst is portrayed as the overlord, called Overlord Oberst, who is mechanically producing American folk songs. And Mike Mogus is depicted as this guy who uses a secret machine to spin up digital tornadoes. So it's like a fictional story written by a fictional author. So JT Leroy is a fictional author made up by a real author.
I mean, I'm following. I'm literally just trying to find this. It's so fucking
And then,
funny.
okay, it goes even a level
This is what
deeper.
I expected. I expected this to happen.
So Connor has one phone conversation with Laura Albert, who is actually JT Leroy. They talk about what the liner notes should be for these two albums. On the album that came after this, Casadega, there's a song called Soul Singer in a Session Band. And there's a line in that song where he says, I had a lengthy discussion about the power of myth with a postmodern author who didn't exist. So in that line, Connor is referencing his conversations with Laura Albert when she was JT Leroy, so he could write the bios in the liner notes for Digital Ash and Wide Awake. Long backstory, but that's also the power of Connor Oberst's writing. Like the fact that he can say one sentence of like, I had a lengthy discussion about the power of myth with a postmodern author who didn't exist, and it has that whole backstory to it, is so indicative of how Connor Oberst is the best songwriter of all time. Anything to say? Or were you not listening to me?
I like zoned out a little bit because I got what you're saying, but I was looking up. There's this author. He's really funny, dude. This like, I can't remember his name, but he's this black dude that like writes from like a fictional character, and all of the titles of the books are so like, he's so genuinely funny. It's like very stereotypical like ratchet shit, but he's like a fantastic writer. I can't for the life of me like remember this dude's name, but it's so fucking funny, and it just like reminded me of that, and I wish that I had anyway.
Cool, great story. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, also Young Thug sampled this.
Which one?
First Day of My Life.
Did he?
Yes. It spanned it did so much, like the influence of this song and album. The fact that Young Thug did it is like, you see how much it meant to everybody.
I didn't know that he did that.
Yeah. It's on Beautiful Thugger Girls.
Is that a real release?
Yeah, it's on an album.
Really?
It is on an album.
Wow.
And it's like a beautiful song. It's that album in general is really good. He's holding the guitar upside down on the fucking cover of it, which I don't know if he knew he was doing, but it's so fucking funny. But that album in general is really, really good. I used to listen to the first 3 songs of Beautiful Thugger Girls every morning when I woke up.
Really?
That's how I got up in the morning.
Maybe you should try that again.
Maybe.
Bring it back.
Maybe. I do have some more notes that it brought Saddle Creek into the mainstream.
That's true. What is Saddle Creek?
A record label.
Okay.
Oh, and also the Saddle Creek rocks. We got to go to Saddle Creek when we first started. But we got to go to Saddle Creek when we first started, when we did an emo night in Omaha. And I feel like that was like your mecca.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. They had like the album art from Lift It, or
Fevers
and Mirrors
yeah.
on the wall. And that was cool. We got to take a picture with that.
With the mirror.
Yeah.
From Fevers and Mirrors.
Yeah, that was cool. But Omaha, man, that place is dark and
Yeah,
dreary.
it's super fucking dreary, and you can, you know, like listening to a lot of Bright Eyes stuff. It is, you know, it sounds like that. But the thing about this album, it sounds like New York.
It does.
It like literally sounds like New York, and an album that can like take you to a place. Another reason, best album of all time.
Absolutely.
It sounds like that. The thing that it did, and like probably like why anybody that's even listening to this podcast, unless you like looked this up, is like, you know, it's emo night. You know, we do emo night. Like it's like emo adjacent sometimes we don't do it. But anyway, this like is it, you know, it's like it's like they somehow got lumped in with that term. And in my like opinion, it's just, it is, but it's also just like so its own thing. Like Bright Eyes
Bright Eyes
just,
never played the Warped Tour.
Yeah.
You know, but for some reason, like people who liked, my favorite band is Brand New, and like they were right next to each other on my iPod, which was very convenient. You have Brand New and then Bright Eyes.
Yeah, and didn't they play fucking
They did play When We Were Young.
So
too,
like
yeah.
that's the thing, as I'm saying, is like
Connor said, if you guys knew how much I was getting paid right now to do this, you would throw up. That's what he said on mic at When We Were Young.
yeah, yeah, well,
It's true.
we know.
Yeah.
You know? But like I wonder if that's like how he thinks of himself, because it was like one of those things where it's around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It's all around like kind of the same time, and that's why when we do some of these albums, we're listening to it and like I'm like, I don't think this is
definitely indie though. Like this is like a major indie record.
Yeah, the thing is like kind of like if you look
They
at
were
those-
the definition of indie. They're like on an indie label that his brother owned, you know, and then they're making just like indie music.
all of the pictures of you when you're younger all like remind me of.
Yeah, I wanted to be Connor Oberst so
Yeah,
bad.
that's why I figured I was like, TJ's gonna take the wheel.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say a bunch of dumb shit. And
Yeah.
TJ's just gonna tell actual things that are true.
Yeah.
The only thing that I know is true is that Young Thug used this in a song.
And I didn't know that one.
It's really good. I wish we could play it on the.
Well, go look it up.
Let me see what it's called, because it's not called First Day of My Life. What is your favorite song off of this album? You always ask me.
My favorite. I mean, I feel like we kind of went over like some of the standout tracks, but you know, I think it's really hard to say. But I love Lua, and I love Poison Oak, and I love Landlocked Blues. I think Landlocked Blues is really fun. That one was actually written before most of this album was written, and they put it out on I think on like some EP or demo, and then they redid it for this album. He almost didn't put it on, but that one's a good one. But yeah, if you like this, you might like
I actually had a very
Young Thug.
yeah, honestly, you probably do.
If you like this,
Dude,
you might
Young
like
Thug is a
Thug.
fucking genius, and also probably in the realm of like you know, for people that feel this way about Connor Oberst, like people that like, you know, hip hop, they probably feel that way about Young Thug.
It's called Me or Us.
Yeah,
is the
Me or
song.
Us. It's called Me or Us.
Beautiful Thugger Girls is what Young Thug calls his singing album.
Look at the cover of the album. He's literally like holding this
Oh yeah,
up.
it's like upside down.
It's so awesome. And like to me, that's a genius thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, it was probably just an oversight. But
Well, that's like I don't know. Brian Logan Dales was telling me a story about how they like filmed something, and they obviously weren't playing like the song really, you know. So he just had a mic with a mic cable like not plugged into anything, and then it like was on a white stick, and you could see that it definitely wasn't plugged into anything. And they got more comments on that than like anything else.
yeah, it's that shit is like when you're doing music videos, it's really, I forgot what the word is. It's like association. It's not that, but it's like you got to make sure everything is in accordance to how it's supposed to be perceived.
Continuity?
Yeah, I think it's I think it is continuity. I think the word is continuity.
But I mean, it's the same stuff that we do with like our clips. Like when Cam puts in a pic of Lennon and McCartney instead of John Lennon and McCartney.
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
and
they
like
get the most.
Yeah, like most of the comments are like, that's the wrong Lennon, you dumbasses. And we're like, yeah, you're actually the dumbass.
It really is awesome. But he like, oh, I also saw, okay, so two things. That its DIY ethic inspired a generation of bedroom musicians.
Okay.
Which I think is a cool and probably
for this album.
Yes.
I mean, this album is like we talked about, it is minimal, but it is well produced.
Yeah, but I think when you listen to it, it feels like you could write
a song. In your bedroom.
Yeah, it's kind of what it feels like, even though like it's absolutely like not true. I also love the trumpet on this album. I think is the coolest fucking thing in the entire world. I don't think there's piano and trumpet. Coolest instruments.
I mean, Nate Walcott is the trumpet player from Bright Eyes, and he is a full-time member of Bright Eyes. And I think, he's incredibly effective with when he plays and when he does not play. The taps, the like musical reference to the military taps that he does with the horn on Landlocked Blues is perfect. You know, just like making like a musical joke almost. I don't know what they call that, but there's
like
stuff
homage.
But
not really. You're like,
it's like a reference, you know, they're making a political statement without lyrically making a political statement, you know?
There's also, speaking of homage, there's a Bob Dylan homage in Train Underwater.
Where?
The vocal delivery and phrasing in that song intentionally mimics Blood on the Tracks era Dylan. Oberst has never explicitly said this, but listen closely to the cadence of I'm a single cell on a serpentine belt and compare it to Tangled Up in Blue.
He also says, I'm a single cell on a serpent's tongue in Poison Oak.
I think he would be so much fun to talk to. Or maybe not. He might not be fun to talk to.
He seems like he's doing well. He seems like he's in a really good place. I know that I think it was 2 years ago at this point, I went down to Mexico City to Corona Capital, which is like their music festival down there, and Bright Eyes was playing and Phoebe Bridgers was playing. And I got to be side stage for Bright Eyes, like standing next to Phoebe. Coolest moment. One of the coolest moments in my life. Just, yeah, it was awesome. But then we were backstage later on in the night, and Connor was so wasted that Phoebe was just holding him up, walking him out to the artist shuttle or whatever.
Yeah, this is the...
And they also recently had to cancel their tour. Last year they had to cancel, I think it was a month or two of tour dates. And, the shows leading up to it, the videos were surfacing on TikTok, and Connor was so fucked and so drunk on stage. And now he seems to be a lot healthier. He's doing the shows. The videos are good. He sounds good. So I don't think he went to rehab, but I think he probably had a come to Jesus, okay, you got to slow down here. I'm not this young drunk kid anymore.
There's the guys like us, myself and Connor, in the same category. I get it. Got to quiet that brain. We're so similar.
Mm-hmm.
So I get it. My kids, we're same amount of talent. You might like Nico Case.
Why?
If you like this album?
Yeah.
Did you ever listen to Nico Case?
I feel like I did. Neko Case,
whatever.
I always said Neko.
I really liked, there was a specific album from her.
It's probably Nico.
I don't know, but I remember, I think, she was a real Tucson, I think, lady.
She seems like a turquoise lady.
Yeah, she's a Tucson
turquoise jewelry
mom.
lady.
Yeah, she's she seems like that. But there's an album that she did that I really, really loved called Blacklisted that came out. And a lot of the songs gave that alt country, which I didn't even know the term, I didn't know if that was a term back then in 2002. But this album in particular, I feel like if you like I'm Wide Awake, It's Morning, you'll like Blacklisted by
Nico Case.
Wait. Yes, that's the album.
Young Thug, Nico Case.
That's so sick.
Brand new. Is because I just like them. And I also like Bright Eyes. But I don't feel like they're really similar.
So you're just saying stuff you like.
Also, Leonard Cohen. If you like this album, you probably will like Leonard Cohen,
like
and you'll probably
song,
like
Hallelujah.
You'll probably like Graham Parsons. I feel like that was who Connor was trying to channel during this album. Like he was hanging out at all the bars that they went to. He was trying to do that East Village writer guy thing. Dylan Thomas.
I think that in like some strange way, it's like maybe he was trying to do that thing, but he somehow managed to Bright Eyes it and make it his own.
Of course.
In like in a way that like now that you say that, I can see it, but I just always feel like he is just like my own path. Like, but that's the cool thing is he loves and respects all these musicians and artists. So he does that stuff, but it's just like, you're so goddamn good, dude. Like, it's crazy that he is like, I would like to try to be like somebody when he's just.
Yeah, it's more just like influence and reference. I don't know. I don't think it's ever really like him trying to be something that he's not, right? It's like you said, he is his own. Bright Eyes is their own project, their own band. It's always, but Connor is always like the through line. It always feels like Bright Eyes, whether it's a electronic album, folk album, cinematic album. It always feels like Bright Eyes no matter what, and that's because of Connor.
And I love Digital Ash. Like, I really love that album. Those are the two, I got to tell you, those are the only two I really, 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 really listened to. Never really got into. I had a Cursive phase though.
Cursive is sick. Yeah,
Cursive is sick. And this album got me going back and listening to Rilo Kiley.
Rilo Kiley's great.
Awesome.
Yeah. Jenny Lewis.
Really sick.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really sick stuff.
I guess they were also, since we're talking about Jenny Lewis, one thing that I'm remembering is that they were really unsure, like Mike Mogus, especially because he was like, I didn't do anything on this album. I feel like I just hit record. I didn't do enough. Is this good? And he sent it to Jenny Lewis, and she was like, this is the best thing you guys have ever made.
It's the best album ever made. It literally is just the best album that has ever been written.
All right, let's wrap it up. Thank you guys for listening to CD Burners. Hope you have a beautiful rest of your day.
Damn, really nailed it at 1 hour.
Like and prescribe. Please leave us a review on iTunes or podcast app. What is it? Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to our YouTube. We are up on YouTube now, and apparently we can monetize now. So if you could just subscribe, and that would really help us out a lot.
Look, I'll tell you why. If we can monetize and you get ads, do the ads funny, but it will also help because we'll use whatever that money is to, like, if we got to fly an artist out here or we got to go somewhere and do some shit or talk to somebody, we'll use that money to do that.
Yeah, we've just been paying out of pocket, but it's been a wild year. It's been a good year. I'm happy that we launched this show. It's been over a year, I think.
And it's been it's fun to do.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it. Like, we've just done shit for like 3 or 4 hours or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I like almost wish we had another album to do.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys. Goodbye.
Bye.